A structure built over 4,000 years ago still stands with near-perfect alignment. The masterminds behind the world's earliest megastructures remain a profound mystery, their names erased by time. This journey uncovers the forgotten engineers who achieved the impossible, revealing the ingenious methods that built our ancient world. You will discover how anonymous teams moved mountains of stone and encoded celestial secrets into their designs, leaving behind puzzles that challenge our modern understanding of history. How did they orchestrate such colossal projects without the technology we take for granted? What does their silent legacy say about our own drive to build for the future? These ancient monuments seem to defy the very landscape they stand upon, but what exactly elevates a large building to the status of a megastructure? It is more than just size, it is a statement. A megastructure represents a fundamental shift in a society's ambition, a project so vast that it demands the reorganization of an entire community. Think of the Great Pyramid of Giza, an artificial mountain of stone erected with breathtaking precision. Or the massive earthworks at places like Cahokia, where soil was moved in volumes that stagger the modern mind. These were not simple shelters or palaces. They were endeavors that pushed the boundaries of human potential, often serving as celestial calendars, sacred spaces, or powerful symbols of a ruler's connection to the gods. The sheer scale implies a master plan, one that required not just brute force but a deep, working knowledge of mathematics and the movements of the stars. To coordinate such a project, someone had to possess the vision to see it through from conception to completion, managing resources and labor across decades, sometimes even generations. This foundational understanding forces a compelling question. How does a society without modern tools even begin to conceive of such a monumental task? The answer lies not in the stones themselves, but in the silent architects who learn to speak the language of the earth and the sky. In this world, the concept of a single celebrated genius was often alien. These societies operated on a different principle, one where the collective endeavor, the shared purpose for a god or a king, was what truly mattered. The identity of the individual who conceived the perfect angle or calculated the astronomical alignment was intentionally absorbed into the greater whole. Their name was not carved into stone because their achievement was considered a service, not a personal triumph. This created a profound historical silence. We know the names of the pharaohs entombed within the pyramids, like Khufu, but the brilliant mind who orchestrated the construction of his monumental resting place is a ghost. Credit flowed upward to the patron who commissioned the work, leaving the creators in a shadow from which they have never emerged. This anonymity was not an accident. It was a cultural choice, reinforced by the fragility of oral traditions that faded over centuries and the deliberate obscurity practiced by certain schools of knowledge. So how do we find them? We become detectives of the distant past, sifting through the quiet clues left behind. A crude sketch on a potsherd, a faded administrative list detailing rations for skilled workers, a single tool mark that reveals a specific technique. These fragments are the signatures we must now decipher. This collective mindset challenges our modern obsession with individual legacy, forcing us to appreciate the power of a shared vision that could move mountains. It also sets the stage for an even greater puzzle. With their names lost, how did these anonymous teams achieve such staggering precision with the rudimentary tools at their disposal? The precision achieved with such basic tools seems almost impossible, yet the evidence is etched in stone. A simple plumb bob, a weighted string, is a perfect example. In the hands of a master, this humble device could define a true vertical line with astonishing accuracy, guiding the construction of pyramid corners that still stand nearly perfect after millennia. Alongside it, the water level, a trench filled with water, provided an absolutely reliable horizontal reference. These were not complex inventions, but they leveraged fundamental principles of nature with a deep and intuitive understanding. Copper chisels, far softer than the granite they often shaped, were used with a patient, repetitive skill that modern power tools have all but forgotten. At sites like Göbekli Tepe, we see this mastery in the intricate carvings of animals, each line and curve executed with a confidence that speaks of generations of practiced tradition. Archaeologists have uncovered the quiet evidence of this methodical work. Fragments of knotted ropes, standardized wooden rods, and notched gauges tell a story of a society that had developed its own consistent language of measurement. Often, this system was based on the human body, the length of a forearm or the width of a hand, creating units that were both personal and universally accessible to the workers. This standardization was the secret to organizing a massive workforce. If every foreman and stonecutter was using the same cubit rod, the blocks they produced would fit together, no matter who made them. This points to a sophisticated, if orally transmitted, grasp of geometry. Experts like engineer Christopher Dunn suggest that the flawless flatness of some granite surfaces inside the pyramids implies a level of geometric knowledge we scarcely credit to the ancients, a knowledge refined through relentless trial and error over centuries. Ingenuity flourished within these constraints. In Egypt, the simple lever and the earthen ramp became the engines of construction, allowing teams to move stones weighing many tons. For the towering monoliths of Stonehenge, researchers hypothesize complex arrangements of ropes, wooden sledges, and counterweights, a form of proto-pulley system that turned impossible lifts into coordinated communal efforts. This was not about having advanced technology, but about achieving a perfect mastery of the physics they could observe and manipulate. It forces a profound question. What kind of mind looks at a hill and sees a ramp, or at a log and sees a lever? This reliance on fundamental principles reveals a training system far more rigorous than we might assume, one that passed down not just techniques, but an entire way of seeing and interacting with the physical world. Their genius lay in applying simple tools with unwavering consistency, a concept that leads us directly to the silent language they used to design these wonders, the language of mathematics written in the alignment of stones and the passage of the sun. That ancient surveyor, working under a blanket of stars, was using a language far more universal than words. Their blueprints were not drawn on papyrus or clay, but in the very geometry of the earth and the predictable cycles of the heavens. This was not abstract mathematics for its own sake. It was a practical, applied science, the essential toolkit for anyone daring to build on a colossal scale. Consider the Great Pyramid. Its base perimeter divided by its height gives a figure remarkably close to 2 times pi. This suggests its architects had a working grasp of this fundamental constant long before it was formally defined by Greek mathematicians. They were embedding these cosmic ratios directly into their stone and mortar. Similarly, the proportions of many classical temples seem to echo the golden ratio, a number often associated with natural beauty and harmony. This was not a coincidence. It was a deliberate choice to infuse their sacred structures with a sense of perfect, divine order. The application of these principles served multiple, brilliant purposes. Precise astronomical orientation, like the north-south alignment of the pyramids, was achieved through meticulous star observations. This celestial anchoring gave the structures their enduring stability and connected them to the eternal. On a more earthly level, complex geometry governed load distribution, ensuring that immense weight was channeled safely into the ground, allowing corridors and chambers to remain intact for thousands of years. This intellectual rigor extended far beyond Egypt. In the 1960s, astronomer Gerald Hawkins proposed that the arrangement of stones at Stonehenge could be used as a prehistoric calculator to predict eclipses. Whether his full theory holds or not, the idea highlights a profound truth. The builders were mapping the heavens, using their monuments as permanent observatories to track the sun and moon. In the Americas, the Mayan temples were designed with stairways and openings that captured the sun's rays on specific days, like the equinoxes, turning entire buildings into a solar calendar. Even the vast Nazca lines, best viewed from the air, required an incredible mastery of scaling and geometric projection to transfer small designs onto a landscape so immense. How did they achieve such accuracy over such distances without modern surveying tools? They likely used a system of chords and stakes, applying consistent units of measure and a deep understanding of right angles to plot out their giant creations. By decoding these numerical patterns, we are not just measuring stones, we are glimpsing the minds of the planners. They possessed an intuitive, yet highly sophisticated, grasp of abstract principles, turning them into tangible, enduring marvels. This mathematical legacy forces us to ask what other sciences they commanded. If they could so perfectly manipulate form and space, what secrets did they hold about the very materials they built with? The stones themselves hold the next chapter of this story. To stand before a multi-ton block of basalt or granite is to feel its immense, stubborn weight. Yet these ancient engineers did not just move such stones, they mastered them. In the quarries of Aswan, the air would have rung with the percussive rhythm of stone hammers, as workers patiently defined a fracture line in solid granite. They understood the material's secret language, its grain and its weaknesses. In some quarries, they employed a technique called fire setting, where they would build a fire against the rock face and then rapidly cool it with water, causing the stone to crack from thermal shock. This was not brute force, but a precise application of physics. The choice of material was always deliberate. The Great Pyramid's inner chambers used immense granite blocks hauled from over 500 miles away, a testament to its perceived strength and permanence. At Baalbek in Lebanon, the foundation stones, some weighing over 800 tons, are a local limestone chosen for its durability and proximity. This intimate knowledge of local geology was their first and most critical tool. But how do you transport a small mountain across such distances without wheels or pack animals? The evidence points to a symphony of coordinated effort. For the Moai statues of Easter Island, the most likely method involved a rocking motion, using ropes to walk the statues forward in a slow, controlled shuffle, a feat of balance and teamwork. On other continents, log rollers and lubricated sledges turned impossible drags into manageable, albeit Herculean, tasks. The real magic, however, was in the binding. Roman engineers developed a form of concrete that could cure underwater, a recipe lost for centuries. Inca masons in Machu Picchu perfected a mortarless construction, shaping irregular granite blocks to fit together with such precision that a knife blade cannot slip between them. This was a sustainable approach, using local resources with an almost zero waste efficiency. Each stone was selected, shaped, and placed with a purpose that went beyond mere structure. It was a collaboration between human ingenuity and the raw elements of the earth, a partnership that raises a fundamental question about the society that made it possible. Who were the thousands of hands that provided the momentum for these grand visions, and what was life like for them? The silent quarries and half-finished blocks tell only part of the story. To raise a megastructure, you need an army, Envision a sprawling, temporary city at the foot of a rising pyramid, teeming with thousands of individuals. This was not a chaotic mob, but a highly organized society in miniature, directed by the unseen overseers who managed the grand design. For a long time, the popular image was one of relentless slave labor, but the archaeological evidence paints a very different, more nuanced picture. Excavations at the worker villages near Giza reveal a community that was surprisingly well cared for. Skeletons show signs of medical treatment for injuries, and the remains of their meals include fish, meat, and bread, indicating a consistent and nutritious diet provided by a state-sponsored supply chain. These laborers were not slaves in chains, but more likely a mixed force of skilled artisans and seasonal workers who rotated in and out of service, often organized into guild-like teams with names like the Craftsman Gang or the Enduring Gang. This was a massive logistical operation, one that required the anonymous engineers to solve problems of housing, sanitation, and food distribution for a population the size of a small modern town, all while the primary construction project continued unabated. This pattern of sophisticated social organization repeats itself across the globe. At Cahokia, the great mounds were not built by a separate, oppressed class. Instead, their construction was likely a community-wide endeavor, a collective act that blended daily labor with cultural ritual. The movement of earth was not just a physical task, it was a sacred duty that reinforced social bonds and shared identity. This coordination on such a grand scale underscores a profound truth. The true marvel of these ancient wonders is not found solely in the precision of their stones, but in the coordinated human spirit that placed them there. It forces us to ask a deeper question. What powerful belief system could possibly motivate such a sustained, generational effort, uniting thousands in a single, monumental purpose? The true engine behind these monumental works was not just ingenuity, but an unshakable faith. These societies viewed construction as a sacred duty, a physical act of aligning their world with the cosmos. In Mesopotamia, the great ziggurats rose like stairways to the gods, their towering forms designed to connect the earthly realm with the divine. Each level represented a different sphere of existence, and the climb to the summit was a symbolic journey. This was architecture as a form of prayer, where every brick laid was an offering. The same principle echoes across the world at Angkor Wat, a Hindu temple complex so vast it mimics the mythical Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Buddhist and Hindu cosmology. Its moats represent cosmic oceans, and its walls depict epic stories from scripture. The builders were not merely stacking stones, they were creating a miniature, perfect universe in stone, a permanent home for the gods that also served as a spiritual map for the people. This profound motivation provided the sustained energy for projects that spanned generations. Why would thousands of people dedicate their lives to moving earth and stone? Because they believed they were participating in a divine act, reinforcing the very order of their world and ensuring its continuity. This spiritual framework gave the anonymous engineers their purpose and their direction. Their technical decisions were infused with symbolic meaning. At Newgrange in Ireland, a passage tomb older than the pyramids, the entire structure is oriented so that on the winter solstice, a single shaft of sunlight pierces the inner chamber, flooding the sacred space with light. This was not a random alignment. It was a carefully calculated event, a symbolic rebirth of the sun engineered into the very bones of the structure. The dimensions of temples, the angles of pyramids, all were chosen to reflect cosmic harmonies and sacred ratios. This fusion of faith and function meant that a builder's geometric calculation was also a theological statement. The structure had to be physically stable, but it also had to be spiritually correct. This shared belief system was the ultimate management tool, uniting a diverse workforce under a common, transcendent goal. It transformed backbreaking labor into a form of communal worship, a pilgrimage in place. As we trace these echoes of celestial order from the temples of Mesoamerica to the stone circles of Europe, we see a pattern emerging, a global tapestry of human aspiration woven into the landscape. A world away from the pyramids of Giza, another civilization was raising its own mountains to the sky. In the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, the Maya constructed towering step pyramids that mirrored the forms of the Egyptian structures, yet they were built without any known contact. This is the great puzzle of our shared history, a story of parallel invention written in stone and earth across the globe. From the colossal burial mounds of the Mississippi Valley to the vast, regimented pits of China's terracotta army, the same impulse emerges. Different cultures, separated by immense oceans and millennia, all arrived at the same conclusion, that humanity's greatest aspirations demanded a monumental scale. They looked at their local landscapes and saw potential. In North America, this meant moving millions of baskets of soil to create massive ceremonial platforms. On the tiny islands of Malta, it meant carving and moving gigantic blocks of limestone to form some of the world's oldest free-standing temples. This was not a single idea spreading from one source. It was a universal human drive, adapting ingeniously to the materials at hand. Scholars have long debated this pattern. Was it a case of convergent cultural evolution, where different societies, faced with similar human needs for expression, power, and connection to the divine, independently developed similar architectural solutions? Or does it hint at faint, now lost threads of exchange where ideas traveled further than we ever believed possible? The evidence on the ground leans toward a powerful convergence. Look at the problem of creating a roof without a keystone. In Mycenaean Greece, builders used a corbelled arch, stacking stones in ever closer circles until they met at the top. Thousands of miles away, the Maya engineers devised an almost identical solution for their own grand doorways and vaults. They shared no common language, but they shared the same fundamental understanding of gravity and compression. This shared genius extended to practical challenges. The massive earthworks at sites like Cahokia required sophisticated drainage systems to prevent erosion, just as the builders of Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley engineered the world's first urban sanitation. The anonymous engineers of every continent were solving the same core problems: stability against the elements, managing the weight of their creations, and organizing labor on a scale never before attempted. This global tapestry of ingenuity fundamentally challenges any single narrative of historical progress. It reveals a world alive with independent innovation, a shared human quest for monumentality that transcends any one culture. This broad perspective forces a humbling realization. If so many could achieve so much in isolation, what does that say about the potential locked within our own species? And it compels us to look closer at the most enigmatic sites of all, where the achievements of these lost engineers seem to defy any conventional explanation. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as the ultimate testament to a lost age of engineering. At its base, you are faced with a sheer wall of limestone, each block averaging 2.5 tons, all precisely cut and placed with an alignment to true north that deviates by a mere fraction of a degree. This was not the work of a single mind, but the culmination of a collective intelligence so refined it achieved near perfection. The master architect who conceived this plan is utterly anonymous, their identity swallowed by the very scale of their creation. Instead, the pyramid was brought to life by a hierarchical system of overseers, foremen, and skilled crews, a chain of command that left no personal records, only the staggering result of their coordinated labor. Recent discoveries have given us fleeting glimpses into this world. The papyrus diary of an official named Mura details the intricate logistics of transporting limestone blocks by boat along the Nile, a massive operation involving rotating crews of laborers. Yet Mura was a manager, not the designer. The true genius behind the geometry and alignment remains a ghost. To achieve such precision, these anonymous engineers likely employed a suite of simple, brilliant tools. They would have used the circumpolar stars, charting their slow rotation around a fixed point in the night sky, to establish a true north-south axis with incredible accuracy. On the ground, water-filled trenches cut along the bedrock plateau provided a perfectly level reference across the entire construction site, a method both elementary and infallible. Their understanding of physics was deeply empirical, born from generations of observation and practice. The internal structure of the pyramid, with its relieving chambers and precisely angled passages, reveals a sophisticated knowledge of how to distribute unimaginable weight. This was a society that had turned applied mathematics and astronomy into a common trade, passed down through an oral tradition and hands-on apprenticeship. The pyramid is not a monument to a king alone, but to the power of a shared, institutional knowledge that could orchestrate thousands of workers over decades. How were these skills transmitted so perfectly without a single name surviving? This case of anonymous perfection forces us to reconsider where true genius resides, not in individual fame, but in a culture's ability to refine and execute a collective vision across generations. From this pinnacle of organized labor, we must look to another ancient wonder, one whose construction continues to baffle researchers with its own unique set of mysteries. On the windswept Salisbury Plain, another mystery was taking shape, one that required moving mountains. The first stones to arrive were the blue stones, each a massive pillar quarried from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a journey of over 150 miles. How they traveled such a distance remains one of archaeology's great riddles, whether by raft along the coast or dragged on wooden rollers across the rugged land. Their final destination was a site already marked by a circular ditch, a place chosen with intention. The master planners then turned to the colossal sarsen stones, local sandstone giants weighing up to 50 tons each. To raise these monoliths, they employed a technique of breathtaking simplicity and strength. They dug large sloping pits lining one side with a row of wooden stakes. Teams would then slowly pull a stone upright, using the timber wall as a pivot, until it thundered into its final, vertical position. The horizontal lintels that crowned the structure were secured with joints more commonly found in woodworking, a mortise carved into the top of an upright stone fitting perfectly with a tenon knob on the lintel. This intricate joinery, executed on a gargantuan scale, locked the entire ring together without a single drop of mortar. The evidence of this organized effort lies not just in the stones but in the surrounding landscape. Archaeologists have found the remains of seasonal worker camps, complete with tools and the remnants of feasts, suggesting a society that gathered at specific times of the year to participate in the great work. This was not a slave labor camp but a cyclical, ritualistic endeavor. The driving force behind this immense labor was written in the alignment of the stones themselves. The entire monument is oriented to frame the sunrise on the summer solstice and the sunset on the winter solstice. For a society dependent on the seasons, this was more than architecture. It was a colossal calendar and a sacred stage for ceremonies that connected the community to the cycles of the sun. Some researchers suggest the blue stones, believed to have healing properties, made the site a destination for pilgrimage and wellness. This fusion of celestial observation, geological knowledge, and spiritual belief provided the powerful motivation that turned an impossible construction project into a shared act of faith. The silent engineers of Stonehenge did not need written plans, for their blueprint was the sky itself, and their instructions were passed down through generations in song, story, and collective memory. This same marriage of purpose and ingenuity can be found in the floating cities of the Andes, where another civilization conquered a different, equally challenging environment. High on the arid plains of Peru, the desert floor becomes a canvas for giants. Here, the Nazca lines stretch for miles, a gallery of geometric shapes and immense animal figures etched into the earth by hands we can never name. These creators worked with a simple yet profound technique, carefully removing the dark, sun-baked stones from the surface to expose the lighter, contrasting soil underneath. In this dry climate, their work was preserved, a masterpiece drawn not with pigment but with the very geology of the landscape. The sheer scale is bewildering. How could these artisans, standing at ground level, possibly design a hummingbird whose wingspan is longer than a jumbo jet, or a spider with perfectly proportioned legs when the complete form is only visible from high above? They left no written plans, only the silent, staggering results of their labor. The answer lies in a form of ancient scaling. Researchers suggest the builders likely created small, precise models first. Using a consistent unit of measurement, perhaps a length of knotted rope, they could then transfer the design to the desert floor using a grid system of stakes and cords. A single step on the model might equal 100 steps in the real world. This method allowed small teams to work on isolated sections of a leg or a curve, trusting the mathematical system to ensure every part connected into a coherent whole from an aerial perspective. This was not random drawing, it was a massive exercise in applied geometry, requiring a foreman or planner with a deep understanding of proportions and angles. The purpose of these vast geoglyphs continues to inspire debate. Some scholars see a connection to vital sources of water, with the lines and figures acting as ceremonial pathways for rituals pleading with the gods for rainfall. Others note alignments with the sun, moon, and stars, suggesting the lines formed a vast celestial calendar, marking the seasons crucial for survival in a harsh environment. This ritualistic framework would have provided the motivation for the entire community to participate in the creation and maintenance of these sprawling designs. The true genius of the Nazca engineers is that they built for an audience they could never see, creating immense art that fulfilled a spiritual need, their legacy written in the negative space of a desert floor. This seamless integration of art, astronomy, and communal effort shows us that the drive to map the heavens was a universal compass, guiding ancient projects across the globe. The stars were their ultimate blueprint. Across continents and centuries, ancient engineers charted the heavens with a patience we can scarcely comprehend, embedding celestial cycles into the very foundations of their greatest structures. At Chichen Itza, the Pyramid of El Castillo becomes a slithering serpent of shadow and light during the equinoxes, a dramatic fusion of astronomy and architecture engineered to awe and inspire. On the island of Malta, the Mnajdra temples are precisely aligned to capture the first rays of the sun on the solstices, marking the turning points of the year with Stone Age accuracy. Scholars like Anthony Aveni suggest these alignments served a profound dual purpose. They created a reliable agricultural calendar, telling a society when to plant and when to harvest, while simultaneously reinforcing the political and spiritual authority of the ruling class. The engineers who designed these features were more than builders. They were the essential intermediaries between the community and the cosmos, translating the silent language of the stars into tangible, functional stone. Achieving this precision required tools of elegant simplicity. A sighting pole planted in the earth, or a basic gnomon casting a shadow, became a sophisticated scientific instrument in the hands of a trained observer. Through years, perhaps generations, of meticulous record-keeping, these anonymous astronomers tracked the sun's slow migration along the horizon, noting its extreme northern and southern points to mark the solstices. This hard-won knowledge was not written in books but passed down through an oral tradition, a living science refined with each passing cycle. This celestial connection did more than ensure a pyramid faced the right direction. It transformed a static building into a dynamic instrument, a clock and a calendar that connected daily life to the eternal rhythms of the universe. It gave the structure a soul, ensuring its significance would endure long after the names of its creators were forgotten. This intricate dance with the stars, however, was only possible because of another, equally monumental achievement happening on the ground, a vast and silent network of supply and support that fed the ambitions of these celestial architects. The silent coordination required to feed these ambitions was a marvel in itself, a symphony of logistics conducted by unseen hands. Envision a single multi-ton block of stone, freshly quarried from a mountainside. Its journey to the construction site was an epic in miniature, a challenge that demanded innovation at every step. To move the massive basalt heads that defined their civilization, the Olmec engineers of ancient Mexico navigated treacherous swamps. They likely employed a combination of rafts for water passages and a legion of rollers, perhaps giant logs, to drag their stone giants across the muddy land, a testament to their understanding of local geography and sheer human perseverance. Across the ocean, Roman supply chains became legendary. They designed specialized merchant ships with vast holds to transport marble and granite from across the Mediterranean, and their cranes, powered by human treadmills, could hoist these materials with breathtaking efficiency once they reached port. The true genius of these operations lay in the subtle, almost invisible solutions. In Egypt, the anonymous overseers discovered that dampening the sand in front of a heavy sledge drastically reduced friction, turning an impossible drag into a manageable pull. This was not a grand invention, but a quiet, empirical discovery that saved immeasurable labor. For the Inca, who built an empire in the clouds, the challenge was record-keeping across vast distances. Their solution was the quipu, a complex system of knotted cords that served as a tactile database, tracking inventories of materials, labor shifts, and supplies without a single written word. These supply chains were living organisms pulsating with activity. They required a deep foresight that accounted for seasonal rains that could flood a transport route, the annual cycles of farming that dictated labor availability, and an intimate knowledge of material properties, knowing which stone could withstand a long journey and which was too brittle. This was a holistic form of project management, one that saw the entire landscape as a single, interconnected system. The megastructure itself was merely the final destination in a vast, meticulously planned network of extraction, transport, and delivery. This intricate web of organization points toward a sophisticated social structure, one capable of marshalling and sustaining such a colossal, coordinated effort over generations. But that meticulous supply chain was only one part of a much larger social machine. These monumental projects required a society where engineers and planners held roles of immense esteem, often blending the authority of a priest with the foresight of a logistician. In the meticulously planned cities of the Indus Valley, every brick conformed to a standardized ratio, and every street grid followed a master plan, pointing to a powerful, centralized authority. This was not a dictatorship of force, but a hierarchy of knowledge, where anonymous specialists ensured that every component, from the smallest brick to the largest drainage channel, adhered to a grand, unifying vision. These master planners were the silent conductors of a vast human orchestra, directing work crews through a potent mix of technical authority and deep-rooted tradition. Their genius was as much about managing people as it was about moving stone. Anthropological studies of megalithic cultures reveal that the very act of construction often served to strengthen the social fabric. Massive projects were punctuated by communal feasts and rituals, turning back-breaking labor into a shared celebration. Participation was not just a duty, it was an exchange where an individual's effort was rewarded with a powerful sense of belonging and a shared identity that was literally set in stone. The unknown engineers had to operate within this delicate framework, constantly balancing the relentless technical demands of their project with the cultural norms and morale of the workforce. They needed to maintain order and morale not for a few months but across decades, sometimes even generations. This intricate interplay between raw innovation and profound social cohesion is what truly allowed these wonders to rise. It reveals how human networks, bound by a common purpose, could amplify individual ingenuity to a scale that still baffles us today. The structure itself became a physical manifestation of that social contract, a symbol of what a community could achieve when united. And within those very stones, the planners embedded another, deeper layer of meaning, a symbolic language meant to be read for eternity. These silent stone libraries were written in a language of symbols understood by all. A pyramid was not merely a tomb, it was a machine for resurrection, its descending passages and hidden chambers mirroring the perilous journey of the soul through the Egyptian underworld. Every angle and alignment was a deliberate instruction for the afterlife. Half a world away, the vast Buddhist temple of Borobudur in Indonesia unfolds as a massive, three-dimensional mandala. Pilgrims do not simply walk through it, they ascend a spiritual path, circling its tiered levels in a meditative climb that symbolizes the journey from the world of desire to the ultimate state of enlightenment. The anonymous engineers who laid these stones were master storytellers, using architecture as their parchment. The spiral carvings at Newgrange, endlessly turning in on themselves, are a powerful, universal representation of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a promise written in stone that the sun would always return after the long darkness of winter. Even the brutal ziggurats of Mesopotamia told a story of social order, their stacked terraces reflecting the stratified layers of their society, with the priestly class at the summit closest to the gods. As scholar Mircea Eliade noted, this symbolic act transformed ordinary space into a sacred center, a place where the community could connect with the cosmic order. This visual language, designed by unknown visionaries, made profound spiritual concepts tangible and accessible to an entire population, many of whom could not read. But this symbolic weight did not make the structures any less practical. In fact, their deepest purpose was often woven directly into the daily life of the city, serving civic needs that sustained the community for generations. Beyond their sacred roles, these ancient structures were also the beating hearts of daily life. The same visionary minds who aligned temples with the stars also engineered the arteries of their cities, building aqueducts, roads, and vast plazas that sustained entire populations. A pyramid might touch the heavens, but a reliable water source ensured a civilization could survive to see another day. The anonymous engineers who designed the Roman aqueducts performed a different kind of miracle, one of pure mathematics and gravity. They had to calculate a perfect, gentle gradient, a slope so precise that water would flow for dozens of miles without stagnating or rushing with destructive force. Their blueprint was the landscape itself, directing water across towering arcades and through deep tunnels, bringing life to the heart of a bustling metropolis. This was engineering in service of public health and urban growth, a testament to a planner's ability to harness natural forces for the common good. On the other side of the world, the Great Wall of China was far more than a simple barrier. It was an integrated system of fortification, a massive communication network where signal towers could relay messages across vast distances using smoke or fire. The engineers who planned its winding path along treacherous mountain ridges had to solve problems of visibility, structural stability, and troop mobility, creating a multifunctional megastructure that defended an empire while also facilitating its internal connections. These projects were not just monuments, they were economic engines. The sheer scale of construction provided consistent employment for thousands, from quarrymen and stonemasons to cart drivers and cooks. This organized labor demand, in turn, fostered waves of innovation in supporting industries. The Roman need for durable, waterproof concrete for their harbors and aqueducts led to the revolutionary discovery of pozzolana ash, a material that allowed their structures to endure for millennia. Similarly, the massive demand for metal tools to shape stone and wood accelerated advancements in smelting and metallurgy. Consider the Maya city of Tikal, deep in the Guatemalan rainforest. Its survival depended on a brilliant and practical solution to a recurring threat, seasonal drought. The unknown engineers of Tikal transformed the city center into a catchment basin, paving grand plazas with stone and channeling rainwater into massive, man-made reservoirs. This intricate system of canals and holding tanks ensured a stable water supply through the dry months, supporting a population that would have otherwise been impossible. This was engineering for pure survival, a direct response to an environmental challenge that required foresight, communal effort, and a deep understanding of hydrology. The legacy of these planners is not found in one single achievement, but in their breathtaking adaptability. They were masters of both the spiritual and the utilitarian, proving that the same mind capable of mapping the stars was also essential for managing the most fundamental needs of a growing society. Their greatest works served the soul, the body, and the economy all at once. And as we stand in awe of this multifaceted genius, we are left to wonder what other secrets their silent stones still hold. Yet these achievements introduce a profound and lasting mystery. At Sacsayhuaman in Peru, immense stone blocks are locked together with joints so tight that not even a sheet of paper can slip between them. The walls curve and weave, each polygonal stone a unique piece in a colossal, earthquake-resistant puzzle. Across the world, in the Serapeum of Saqqara, Egypt, lie granite boxes weighing dozens of tons. Their surfaces are flawlessly flat, their corners perfectly square, and their interiors so smoothly hollowed that the precision rivals what we might expect from modern machinery. How were such feats accomplished with the simple copper and stone tools that archaeologists have found? This is not just a question of skill, it is a riddle that challenges our entire understanding of ancient technological progress. Some researchers point to the possibility of lost methods, techniques painstakingly developed over centuries only to be forgotten when that specific cultural need faded away. They suggest that these builders may have harnessed natural processes we have since overlooked, perhaps using acidic plant extracts or specialized sand abrasives to slowly, meticulously work the hardest stone. The mainstream view, supported by most archaeologists, offers a different but equally compelling answer: the power of cumulative knowledge. This perspective holds that these were not sudden inventions but the peak of a long tradition. Generations of artisans would have refined their craft, passing down small improvements in technique, tool design, and material science. A worker might discover that a certain type of dolerite hammer was more effective on granite, or that a consistent, repetitive polishing motion with sand and water could achieve that impossible smoothness. Through relentless experimentation, what seems like magic to us was simply their standard practice. This was a slow, collective climb to mastery, where each small innovation built upon the last. So were these anonymous engineers, aided by insights we are only now rediscovering. The evidence suggests their knowledge was deeply empirical, rooted in a lifetime of observing how materials behave under stress and friction. They understood stone not as an obstacle but as a partner. The lingering enigmas do not necessarily demand lost high technology, but they do compel us to respect the immense power of perfected tradition. These silent questions keep the legacy of the ancient builders vibrantly alive, urging us to look closer, to study deeper, and to preserve these wonders for the generations of explorers yet to come. The silent stones that have endured for millennia now face a race against time. Modern teams of archaeologists and engineers are deploying new tools to capture these ancient wonders in unprecedented detail before they are lost. High-resolution 3D scanning and aerial drone surveys create digital models of crumbling sites, preserving every crack and carving with perfect accuracy. These virtual records become permanent archives, safeguarding the legacy of the anonymous builders from the relentless pressures of erosion and urban expansion. At sites like Machu Picchu, preservation is an active process where engineers carefully stabilize terraces and walls, applying modern geology to solve age-old problems of drainage and slope stability. This work is a profound act of respect, using contemporary science to honor the original ingenuity. After the tragic damage to the ancient city of Palmyra, digital reconstruction efforts offered a way to restore its grandeur virtually, ensuring that its story would not be erased. These preservation projects are not just about saving stones, they are about protecting the knowledge and the human spirit embedded within them. How do we ensure these sites survive for future generations to study and admire? The answer increasingly lies in the hands of the local communities. Sustainable tourism, carefully managed, provides the essential funding for ongoing conservation. At Göbekli Tepe, local initiatives train guides to share the site's deep significance, transforming residents into passionate guardians of their own heritage. This fosters a global appreciation for the anonymous creators who first raised those towering T-shaped pillars. This collaborative work builds a vital bridge between past and present, revealing how we can learn from ancient techniques to address our own modern challenges in sustainability and community. The enduring legacy of these megastructures is not just in their physical presence, but in the timeless lessons they offer about human potential, collective effort, and our enduring drive to create something that outlasts us all. That ancient mastery of stone and sky is not a relic to be admired from a distance. It is a living library of solutions, and today's engineers are eagerly checking out its volumes. Contemporary architects are now looking back to the passive cooling systems of Persian wind catchers, elegant towers that captured breezes to cool buildings without a single watt of electricity. They study the earthquake-resistant designs of Incan masonry, where interlocking stones dance with seismic forces rather than resisting them, a principle now informing base isolation systems in modern skyscrapers. The anonymous engineers of antiquity achieved a profound understanding of load distribution, ensuring their structures channeled immense weight safely into the earth. They practiced material recycling and waste minimization long before it became an environmental imperative, using local resources with an almost zero waste efficiency. Their entire philosophy was built on environmental harmony, constructing in concert with the landscape rather than dominating it. In an era defined by climate change, these approaches offer powerful blueprints for resilience and sustainability. The renowned architect and engineer Santiago Calatrava often speaks of the enduring relevance of ancient forms, drawing inspiration from organic shapes and skeletal structures found in nature and history. He acknowledges that these timeless designs hold keys to both beauty and function that we are still learning to decode. By analyzing how these megastructures endured for millennia, we can adopt their core strategies for durability and efficiency in our own projects, from towering skyscrapers to essential public infrastructure. This cross-temporal dialogue between past and present does more than just inspire new techniques. It encourages a profound humility and a fresh wave of innovation, reminding us that true greatness often stems from collective, anonymous effort rather than a single celebrated genius. This reflection on timeless principles naturally leads us to wonder how the stories we tell about these builders have shaped their legacy, a narrative deeply woven with threads of mythology and legend. These legendary tales were the original explanations for the impossible. When later societies gazed upon the massive, irregular stone walls of Mycenae, so colossal that they seemed beyond human capability, their only logical conclusion was that a race of one-eyed giants, the Cyclopes, must have been the builders. This is how myth becomes the placeholder for lost history, a grand story told to make sense of an engineering feat that time had rendered incomprehensible. Yet the work of modern archaeology carefully peels back these layers of legend. At the Hecatompedon Temple, forensic analysis of tool marks and quarry sites reveals not magic, but the relentless, methodical work of human crews using levers, ramps, and ropes. The myth of the Cyclopes did not emerge from nothing. It was a cultural response to a genuine marvel, a way to honor a scale of achievement that felt superhuman. Historians now see these stories not as falsehoods but as coded vessels. They were a way for oral cultures to preserve the memory of a significant site and its core purpose across generations, even when the specific technical knowledge of how it was built had faded from common memory. The process of demystification is not about dismissing these beautiful stories, but about recovering the even more compelling truth they obscure: the reality of anonymous human ingenuity. By separating the legendary from the logistical, we can finally appreciate the sophisticated problem-solving that defined these projects, a prowess that challenges us to look for the builders in places we have too often overlooked, including the vital, yet often invisible, contributions of women. The silent stones of Çatalhöyük tell a quieter story, one of a walled Neolithic city where homes shared walls and life was deeply communal. Here, the archaeological record offers subtle hints that the builders were not a single gender. A burial might contain the remains of an individual laid to rest with a finely crafted toolkit of obsidian blades, tools that would have been essential for shaping the very walls of the city. While we cannot assign modern labels, this find challenges the long-held assumption that large-scale projects were an exclusively male domain. In Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, cuneiform tablets occasionally break the silence, recording the name of a female seal cutter or a woman who managed a workshop of artisans. These rare inscriptions are fragments of a much larger, untold story. The pioneering archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon uncovered evidence at Jericho that suggested women were integral to the community's labor force, their physical remains showing signs of work that contributed to the city's famed fortifications. What does this mean for our understanding of these megastructures? It suggests that the anonymous engineers were not a monolithic group. The vision behind a temple complex or the intricate knowledge of a ritual specialist could have easily belonged to a woman, her authority drawn from spiritual insight or managerial skill rather than physical strength. These overlooked contributors remind us that innovation is not born from a single perspective. A society that harnessed the talents of its entire population, regardless of gender, would have possessed a richer, more adaptable pool of knowledge. This broader, more inclusive view of the past fundamentally changes the narrative. It transforms the image of a lone male mastermind into a collaborative council of diverse minds, each bringing unique insights to the grand design. This collaborative spirit was not limited to social organization. It extended to a profound partnership with the natural world, a wisdom we are only beginning to fully appreciate. The most brilliant designs often begin not by conquering a landscape, but by listening to it. These anonymous engineers possessed a deep, intuitive understanding of their local environments, viewing challenges like earthquakes or droughts not as obstacles, but as parameters for their design. At Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley, the entire city was raised on massive platforms of earth and brick, a deliberate defense against the seasonal flooding of the mighty Indus River. Their advanced drainage systems channeled water away with an efficiency that would impress modern urban planners. Similarly, the ventilation shafts found in Egyptian pyramids were not merely architectural whims. They regulated internal temperature and humidity, preserving the delicate wall paintings and the structure itself from the ravages of the desert climate. This was engineering in dialogue with the elements, a proactive approach to preservation that ensured these structures would endure for millennia. This symbiotic relationship is perhaps most vividly illustrated by the Anasazi cliff dwellings of the American Southwest. Built into high, natural alcoves, these communities were perfectly positioned for passive solar heating. The low winter sun would penetrate deep into the dwellings, warming the stone walls, while the high summer sun was blocked by the overhanging cliff, providing natural cooling. They engineered intricate systems of channels and cisterns to capture every precious drop of rainwater, turning a harsh, arid environment into a sustainable home. They did not fight their world, they collaborated with it, using local sandstone and timber to create structures that seemed to grow directly from the canyon walls. This ancient principle of sustainability, of reducing ecological impact by working within natural systems, is a powerful lesson that resonates deeply with modern green architecture. The anonymous engineers of the past achieved a low-carbon footprint out of necessity, using locally sourced materials and designing for energy efficiency long before the terms were ever coined. Their legacy is a testament to the fact that true durability comes from harmony, not domination. It prompts a compelling question: what economic engine was required to fuel such thoughtful, long-term projects? And how did a society organize its resources to turn this profound vision into a reality? The sheer scale of these projects demanded an economic engine of equal magnitude. Vast empires and centralized states did not simply will these structures into existence. They funded them through intricate systems of tribute and taxation. Resources flowed from the farthest reaches of a kingdom, from quarried limestone and cedar wood to more exotic materials like obsidian and lapis lazuli, all funneled toward the grand construction site. The anonymous engineers operated within this powerful framework, their blueprints made possible by a ruler's command over the economy. In Egypt, the pharaoh's wealth, drawn from agricultural surplus and trade with neighboring lands, bankrolled the pyramid projects, paying for the rations of thousands of workers and the specialized tools of the artisans. This was not just construction, it was a massive state-sponsored investment that displayed the ruler's divine right and absolute power for all to see. But what about societies that functioned without money? The Inca Empire perfected a system known as the mitre, a form of labor tax where every household contributed a certain amount of work to state projects each year. This collective effort, a rotation of citizens contributing their time and muscle, built wonders like the fortress of Sacsayhuaman without a single coin ever changing hands. Economic historians point out that these immense investments did more than just create a monument. They stimulated entire economies, fostering specialized craftsmanship in stoneworking, metalworking, and logistics. The demand for higher quality tools pushed innovation in metallurgy, while the need to feed a massive workforce encouraged advances in agriculture and food preservation. This created a ripple effect, raising the overall technological and organizational level of the entire society. The ambition to build was inextricably linked to the political and economic power to mobilize an entire civilization. This deep interconnection between engineering and economics forces a final, profound reflection. Beyond the politics and the practicalities, what fundamental human impulse drives us to pour such immense resources into projects that we may never see finished in our own lifetimes? That deep-seated urge to build on a grand scale is written into our very nature. We are driven by a fundamental desire to etch our story into the landscape, to create something that whispers our name to the future long after we are gone. This is the psychology of monumentality, a force that compels us to transform abstract aspirations into mountains of stone and earth. Psychologists point to a powerful human need for legacy, a way to defy the fleeting nature of a single lifetime and achieve a form of immortality. For a community, a shared megastructure becomes a physical anchor for their collective identity, a source of immense pride that shouts, "We were here and we achieved this together." The anonymous engineers were the vital bridge, the ones who understood how to translate these profound, intangible motivations into a tangible plan that could inspire thousands. They channeled the universal longing for belonging into a coordinated physical effort. Consider the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, a massive earthwork shaped like a winding snake. This was not a defensive wall or a palace, but a powerful symbol that wove the community together, reinforcing a shared tribal identity with every basket of soil moved. In ancient Egypt, the colossal statues of Ramses II were not merely portraits. They were instruments of power, designed to inspire awe and submission in all who saw them, projecting an image of unchallengeable authority across the centuries. These structures served as a societal glue, transforming individual effort into a collective triumph. This psychological lens allows us to see past the cold stone and recognize the vibrant human spirit that animated these projects. They were not just feats of engineering, but profound expressions of hope, resilience, and an unshakable belief in a future that would remember them. When we view these wonders as the culmination of our deepest psychological drives, we can finally synthesize a complete picture of the hidden innovators behind them. They were not merely technicians, but masters of the human heart who understood that to build for eternity, you must first speak to the timeless yearnings of your people. We are left with a mosaic of quiet evidence where each fragment tells part of a larger story. The faint tool marks on a granite block, the precise astronomical alignment of a temple doorway, the remains of a worker's meal near a half-finished wall. These are the pieces of a vast historical puzzle. Researchers do not have a single manual or a list of names to work from. Instead, they must integrate everything from hard archaeological data to ethnographic studies of traditional building methods. They look at how cultures today move large stones with simple technology, offering possible analogies for the past. Experimental archaeologists then try these methods, rebuilding small-scale ramps or testing stone drilling techniques with replicated copper tools. This rigorous, multi-faceted approach slowly builds a composite picture of the anonymous teams. They emerge not as mythical figures, but as pragmatic visionaries, deeply grounded in the physics of their world, yet capable of conceiving projects that would span generations. Their greatest strength was a collective intelligence, a shared pool of knowledge that was refined and passed down, allowing them to adapt to unexpected challenges, from a cracked foundation stone to a shift in the royal lineage funding their work. This synthesis reveals that while their individual names are forever lost to time, their legacy is far from silent. It lives on in the enduring questions that push our own research forward. and in the ingenious techniques, from earthquake-resistant masonry to passive solar design, that we are only now fully appreciating. Reflecting on this entire journey, a clear truth comes into focus. The true engineers of the ancient world were not solitary geniuses working in isolation. They were communities of perpetual learners, masters of collaboration who pushed the very boundaries of the possible with nothing but simple tools, profound observation, and a shared, unshakable vision. Their story invites us to carry forward a renewed appreciation for the unsung masters of antiquity, reminding us that humanity's greatest achievements have always been, and will always be, a collective endeavor. This legacy of collective genius echoes across the silent stones of every ancient wonder we have explored. We have walked with the surveyors who charted the stars to lay a pyramid's foundation, and we have stood beside the countless hands that moved mountains of earth and stone, all united by a shared vision that transcended any single lifetime. Their story is not one of forgotten blueprints, but of a living intelligence woven into the very fabric of their societies, a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and human potential that allowed them to achieve what we might deem impossible. The true wonder is not that these structures were built, but that they were built by communities who saw their labor as an act of faith, a civic duty, and a connection to the cosmos. Their anonymity challenges our modern obsession with individual credit, reminding us that humanity's most enduring achievements are almost always a chorus, not a solo. The principles they mastered, from seismic resilience to passive solar design, offer powerful lessons for our own future, proving that the most sustainable solutions are often those born from harmony with the natural world. As you look upon images of these ancient sites now, see them not as ruins, but as living testaments to the power of collaboration. Which of these enduring mysteries speaks most deeply to you? Is it the celestial precision of Stonehenge, the logistical miracle of the pyramids, or the symbolic language of the Nazca line? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this journey into our shared past has inspired you, subscribe for more explorations into the untold stories that built our world. Keep questioning, keep wondering, and never stop uncovering the hidden layers of our